Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you all to the regular meeting of the Hayden City Council. It's Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. I'm calling this meeting to order. Could I have a roll call of council members, please, Abby?
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember White?
Yes.
I'd like to ask Councilmember Roger Satterfield to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen and members of council, tonight I would like to first introduce Ms. Leslie Johnson, who is the, I'm sorry, thank you very much. Before we get to that, additions or corrections. With council's approval, I would like to remove item 2C from the consent calendar, which is the Caterpillar 140H grader. We've noticed a last-minute problem in the contract. And I would also like to remove item number 5D, the Kootenai County Law Enforcement Services Agreement. We are still negotiating with that, and our city attorney has not had an opportunity to review anything. I'd appreciate a motion from council members on removing those two items from the calendar.
I so make the move, I make my motion that we remove from the consent calendar 2C. And the next item that I'd like to have removed is item 5D under new business.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ms. Leslie Johnson, who is the Development Director for Safe Passage. As you are probably aware, Safe Passage deals with troubled homes and folks who are looking for a way out. Ms. Johnson, would you like to give us your presentation really quickly here? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council people, men and women. So I'm Leslie Johnson, and I am representing Safe Passage here tonight. We represent victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and stalking. We serve the 5 northern counties, which at the last census was about 250,000 people. So tonight I'm going to give you a very brief overview because afterward, the mayor is going to read a proclamation that has been signed. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And Safe Passage, we serve all people free of charge. We are a confidential service. And I want to just give you a little bit of a glimpse of what we do. Our vision is to create a community free from violence. Think about that for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren. And our mission is to provide safety, education, and empowerment for survivors and the community at large. We were started in 1977, a grassroots effort by some people that were seeing rape victims coming into the hospital. And they wanted a place for these rape victims to be able to go after they were seen by the physicians at the hospital. So a group rallied around and a house was designated to help. In 1983, we got our shelter. And you can follow this all around, but in the event of time, I'll take you right to the end of this slide. In 2012, Kootenai County developed a domestic violence court, and that court is really important to survivors of domestic violence. In 2012, we had the Children's Advocacy Center come under our umbrella, and we're very happy to be having that service available as we work with law enforcement and health and welfare. And currently, the very last arrow there, 2023, our most recent promotion is Amanda Career, who is a local to Coeur d'Alene, and she is our executive director after 9 years of service, working in almost every capacity within our agency. So what do we do at Safe Passage? Some of you may not know. We provide emergency shelter 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We also have advocacy. We have court advocacy as well. So in that domestic violence court that I was talking about, we have housing support that is an emergency housing that's confidential. A lot of people will not leave their abuser if they cannot take their pet. And we have pets that are welcome within our home for support of our survivors there. We also have prevention and outreach. And so we are in the school districts. We're in the middle schools and the high schools, and we're working to get our way now into the elementary schools. Elementary would be teaching just basic safety concepts of, what is consent? Ask for a hug. Don't just jump in and grab somebody and give them a hug, right? All the way to the high school where we're talking about things like sexting and dating violence, boundaries, and how to help your friend when a friend discloses that they have experienced violence. Our Children's Advocacy Center, our most recent staff member is Lucy there that you see on the screen. We're very proud of Lucy being here. Another grassroots effort of our community members wanting to get a court support dog to be able to walk with the child into the courtroom when they're facing their abuser to testify. But at our Children's Advocacy Center, Lucy is an incredible emotional support. She can snuggle on command, and sometimes a child will not want to disclose their abuse to an adult, but they will talk to Lucy, and we're able to leave the room with the police officers standing by, and it's being recorded and videoed, and the child will tell their story to Lucy. We have support groups and life skill classes that we teach, and our hospital response. That's a big part of what we do. Going back to our emergency shelter when that started, our hospital response, we partner with Kootenai Hospital, and we have a forensic nursing program that has been recently launched there. And our hospital response, where we come out within 30 minutes when a victim has come into the hospital for primarily sexual assault, but also stalking, human trafficking, and domestic violence, as well as children. Children do also come into that hospital. And so we respond to the emergency department very quickly, and we're there to support the victim. We also provide resiliency services, so we have counseling, and again, that's free to the victims who are now survivors, in addition to adolescents 13 and older. And we do offer some equine therapy, which has been scientifically proven to be incredibly impactful in an adolescent's life. So this is where we get to the nitty-gritty, empowerment to prevent. We can do presentations on dating violence and healthy relationships. If you have a workplace where you're wanting to educate your staff, we do Green Dot Bystander Intervention Training. We partner with North Idaho College. So we're teaching the students on campus what to do if they happen to see one of their classmates getting lured upstairs when she's had too much to drink, right? We have support groups in the high school, also throughout the community. We do jail presentations, and we are also at the Juvenile Detention Center. Did you know, this is an interesting fact, that 50% of the USA mass shootings show that the person who has done the mass shooting has witnessed a domestic violence instance in their home? That's an incredible statistic. Another statistic, over 30% of law officer deaths are due to domestic violence disputes. Some startling numbers. So we're out there educating, training community members, agencies, institutions, and churches. And we would love to come out and talk to you if you would have us. We do outreach on sexual harassment prevention, and we also help develop policies within the workforce. So you can really rely on us for our wisdom. We've been around again, 1977, so we're approaching our 50-year anniversary. So, by standing hand in hand with the community and survivors, we pave the way to a brighter, violence-free future through education, empowerment, and safety. And it's going to take all of us working together. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. This is an incredibly valuable organization in our community. And tonight I am offering a proclamation. Whereas domestic violence is a pervasive and devastating crime that affects individuals and families of all races, backgrounds, and socioeconomic statuses, and its impact extends throughout our community. And whereas domestic violence can take many forms, including physical, emotional, psychological, and financial abuse, and it often goes unnoticed or unreported, leaving victims suffering in silence. And whereas our community is committed to take a stand against domestic violence and working towards creating a safer and more compassionate environment for all residents. Now, therefore, I, Scott Purcell, Mayor of Hayden, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Hayden, and call upon all residents, businesses, schools, and community organizations to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies to raise awareness about domestic violence and those who are affected by it. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming tonight. Moving on to item number 2, our consent calendar. Many of you have heard me say this before, but City of Hayden does business during all of their business hours. Many of the things that the City of Hayden does do not require City Council approval. However, some things do. And tonight, as you can see on your calendar, on your agenda there, we are here to talk about 2A, the approval of the September 26, 2023 City Council special meeting minutes. Item 2B, approval of September 26, 2023 City Council meeting minutes. 2D, the approval of Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board wastewater treatment plant facility upgrades for payment request. 2E, the approval of JUB Engineers authorization for contract amendment for the Ramsey Road Gravity Sewer Phase 1, Wyoming to Reed. 2F, the approval of JUB Engineers authorization for contract amendment for the traffic analysis study speed study of Hillview Drive and North Hayden Avenue. 2G, the approval of JUB's authorization for contract amendment for traffic analysis study and geometric review of the Kirkpatrick Street and Hayden Avenue. 2H, the approval of JUB Engineers authorization for contract amendment for a multi-way stop warrant analysis at Hayden Avenue and Hutter Road. 2I, the approval of the Hayden Canyon Second Edition final plat and acceptance of infrastructure. 2J, the approval of Anderson Brothers CPA audit engagement letter for 2023. 2K, the ratification of bills paid on 9/29/23, and 2L, the approval of bills for payment. Members of council, are there any questions or comments?
Comment.
Mr. DePriest.
Yeah, I'd like to make comment on 2F, G, and H, the traffic analysis. The one is the speed study. Another, the geometric review. I believe it's out there at by Maverick, where they're having some issues with accidents in the left-hand turn lane and stuff like that. And even more so, not more, they're equal, the Hutter and Hayden Avenue study. And I'd like to thank staff for being so responsive, really. We just talked about this not that long ago where council requested that we do these traffic studies, and it looks as though that's what we are here to deal with tonight. And again, I just want to thank and ask that we trust staff. We allow them to do their job and present the facts to the council for our consideration, and then make a decision based on that. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Are there any comments or questions from Councilmember White?
Thank you very much. Yes, I'd like to comment on letter H. That's also one of the analyses. What's the plural of analysis? Analyses? Analyses. So I was wondering, because we'd also talked about, besides just the stop sign, we had also talked about the speed limit on Hayden and in that area and about possibly reducing it. So I was just going to ask about what's being done about the speed limit situation.
Mr. Soderling, would you care to comment on that?
I have not. I don't actually recall being requested to do that, but I'm not saying it didn't happen. I know that there's been comments on the speeds out there. So we can certainly do that.
Okay.
Am I correct that this analysis would probably include speed out there?
No, it would include volumes and safety.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. White?
Yes, I'd like to add to my comment earlier. So I did talk to Jeff Tyler, who's on the Post Falls Highway District. And he said that they're going to be looking into the speed limit situation. And then also they're going to be splitting the cost with us, possibly on all of these things. So, and he said that it could be that slowing the speed will solve a lot of the problems on that highway. So just something else to think about. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Roeder.
Hi. I just have one question on our bills. And I don't, maybe there's an easy explanation on the bills paid. But on page 22 of 25 and on page 23 of 25, we have a total of a P card 9285 Visa account for $2,018.10. And then also on 23, page 23, a total P card 9287 Visa for $1,185.57. I don't know, what are those? There's no explanation. There doesn't seem to be any connection to what I can see. Could somebody help me with that?
My understanding is those are the fuel cards. It's incorrect. When it says P card, those are the what the guys are using to fuel the vehicles.
Okay, so there's no description in there. That's why I'm asking, because it just doesn't say anything. So,
That's when
On 23 and 22, you said, correct?
yeah, on page 22 and 23, both of them are P cards. And there's no description on it, it just has an amount.
We can also, when we enter the invoices, we can add a little more description too, if that would be helpful when you guys review. We're
Sure,
happy to do so.
I've never seen that, I'm just wondering what it
Okay.
was. So it is,
We'll verify that. I think it's the fuel cards.
Okay.
So we can verify.
that's all I had, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I would appreciate a motion to approve or deny the consent calendar tonight.
I'll go ahead.
Mr. DePriest?
Thank you. I would motion to approve the consent calendar with the exceptions of 2C as listed.
Do I have a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest,
Yes.
and Council President Roeder.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to item number 3, our visitor public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, for our public comment session tonight, if you wish to speak, please fill out a card from the table at the back of the room and bring it up to us here at the front. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes. At approximately the 4-minute mark, I'll wave a piece of paper like this to let you know you have 1 minute remaining. We expect commenters to be respectful of other citizens and council members. The council will not hear comments on any planning and zoning matter that is before the city or is known to be a likely application. When it's your turn to speak, please approach the podium and state your name and whether you reside within the Hayden city limits. Our first commenter this evening is Mr. Robert Reich. I'm sorry, Bob. Mispronounced that. Mr. Reich.
Hello, my name is Bob Reich. I'm a resident of Kootenai County, living in the Hayden area of city impact. To the mayor and members of the city council, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Mr. Brett Bauer for his service to this community. I have been fortunate to meet with Mr. Bauer on a couple of occasions to discuss topics of city business that I thought were important to me. On those occasions, I always found Mr. Bauer to be professional, courteous, and sincere in his efforts to actively listen and to my comments and understand and the concerns and respond in a thoughtful and compassionate manner. While I was not always in total agreement with the information he provided in response to my inquiries, I knew he was being forthcoming and provided the facts of the situation so I could better understand the circumstances surrounding the issue and the limitations and restrictions, applicable regulations, and processes imposed. I've been a silent observer of these proceedings for some time now, and I've gained a better understanding of how the city government operates. As a result, I am fully aware of the importance of the role the city administrator has in ensuring the needs of the citizens are met. Mr. Boyer, in my opinion, has surpassed all expectations of an outstanding city administrator and has done an excellent job performing his demanding duties. Thank you, Brett, and my wife Nancy and I wish you and your family fair winds and following seas in the next chapter of your life. You'll be missed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reich. Something that we all certainly agree. Our next speaker is Mr. John Klassen. Did I spell your name right, or pronounce your name right, Mr. Klassen? Did I pronounce your name right, sir?
You did.
Good, good. There you go. Have yourself time at the podium there, sir.
Well, good evening. Thank you for this public comment time. And I very much appreciate it. I'm John Clausen. I wear a hat all the time, mainly because of air conditioning from above. And I was a professor of mathematics at North Idaho College for 30 years. And because of the air conditioning, and not everybody has the same kind of heat transfer, I wear this, and I found this very protective of my health. So that's the reason, because it said remove your hat. So it's part of my protection against whatever might come. Well, tonight, I'd like to say a little bit about what's going on in Emerald Estates where we live. We live at 12787 North Emerald Drive. We've lived there for 30 years, since 1991. And we're experiencing, and we have, just to give a brief comment about the quality of life that invited us to live there, to buy a residence in Emerald Estates. And it was the water, the purity of the water from the aquifer. It was the kind of people that live there, who care about their fellow residents, who live. An example is Louise, Pat and Louise, that live down the road from us here. She is attending here with. And many others. I mean, I couldn't even begin to list all of the residents who act as real neighbors. If there's a problem or something good happening, we talk to each other. And that's what I appreciate that here, that there's a chance to speak. And this is the way I taught my classes as well, where it wasn't me all the time talking, but the students also. It was a sharing of knowledge. So the knowledge I want to share tonight is what is right now threatening our way of life. And Hayden, city of Hayden, has this ordinance, and Donna Phillips, I was at one of the hearings, two of the hearings actually. And I'm so grateful that the city of Hayden is concerned that whatever permits are granted do not affect the way of life of the residents adjoining to the city of Hayden. And that is remarkable and fantastic because you care about your neighbors. What else? Who else is there in the world but your neighbor? You look at your neighbor here on the council, those working together. You wouldn't want to come to work unless you share with each other and can take positive and negative. And so that's why I thank you. But this, what is going to happen or is proposed to happen, to blast the rim rock, for which there have been no geological studies done, to ensure that it will not damage the aquifer from which our wonderful water comes from, that it will not damage the reservoir, which is old concrete and yet very effective. But a damaged blast like this, as many can testify to, we don't exactly, cannot guarantee that it will do. So thank God.
1 minute.
1 minute? Oh my goodness. I have a list of the aquifer, the reservoir, the septic tanks that are all concrete. Cracks may not show up till many years later. What does that mean? The foundations of our houses. And we know from studies that have been done, doesn't show up sometimes till many years later. And it can begin to render those homes unlivable. What does that mean? Gone is our lifestyle. Structural stability can be compromised. And we're very passionate. But you know what we have in Emerald Estates? You've seen these 100 feet tall trees? They're all around us. And what has happened behind us? They've removed all the ones up on top. Every single one. And I know I'm probably out of time.
Yes, sir, I'm afraid you are.
And I will stick to that. But this, we have many residents who have PTSD. Guess what that means? When blasting happens, they want to get out of town. They even get out of town in Halloween and in 4th of July. Why? Because it affects them that badly. Reminds them of the killing. Thank you for listening. I appreciate the time.
Thank you for your
You know
comments.
how we found out? And I'm sorry to say that it wasn't you. We found out about the blasting about to happen by those who came around to do pre-blasting damage assessment. What does that tell us? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Classen.
Mayor?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask him a question, please?
We're not supposed to during the comment session.
Done it before. I just want to know when it's supposed to
Go
happen.
ahead, ask your question. Mr. Classen,
Mr. Klassen,
one question on the end here.
Oh, yeah.
I would just like to ask you, when is this blasting supposed to happen?
Well, you told us.
Just a second.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am. Sir.
if I may just clarify a little bit, because it's been brought up in public here. There is not currently been an application for blasting. Staff has spent quite a bit of time today, as we also found out that somebody went out and did a pre-survey of looking into this. And need to be a lot of work done before that could happen.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Klassen. Mr. Klassen?
I could respond.
No, sir, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir, your time is up. But thank you very much for your time to comment. Thank you.
And do I get a question?
No, sir, I'm sorry that.
You
that will
answered
be
my
our-
question.
our
Thank you.
I did?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Next comer is Ms. Louise O'Brien.
I thank you all. I live in Emerald Estates. I was a woman Marine. I married an Air Force guy. Don't hold that against him. We served 20 years. 4 years in South America. The moon rover that's on the moon today, my husband flew it from Houston, Texas to Cape Kennedy. And when that rocket went up, my husband was up in the air flying a grid. What you didn't know were the Russian ships off at the coast. Then he went to Vietnam. He had the calf of his leg ripped off. One Army doctor said, I can save it. And my husband said, I'm with you. We retired. We went to Idaho Falls. We served the state of Idaho. I was a deputy sheriff for 13 years in Idaho Falls. My husband served the state of Idaho as a court marshal. We came here for peace, and it hasn't happened. In back of us, they mowed the trees down, the trees that feed the aquifers for that water that you're just drinking. With the people coming here, we need the water. Then we have, I guess, one of the people here, I asked, do you have a diagram or a plan for all the construction going in back of me? I got a letter from the city of Hayden. No, we don't have a plan. So I said, how are you building the roads? How are you putting in the pipes for the electricity and for the services under the ground? How are you putting in the sidewalks if you don't have a plan? The answer on the letter, and I'll be happy to provide it from you, from Hayden, Idaho. It says, we don't have a plan and we probably won't have one for a year. Then we get serviced by someone coming around saying, we're going to blast the cap rock. They're mowing the trees on the top of the cap rock. The rocks are rolling down because we are directly underneath the cap rock. Most of us are residential people just trying to live like you all. But for 2 years, this has been going on. And it's affecting us. Like I said, we came here for peace, and it hasn't happened. We have lived there 34 years. To me, the people are a Norman Rockwell neighborhood. In Rosenbergers, you go on their streets, you don't see people walking. We have children riding bicycles. We have people riding vehicles, people walking, dogs walking. We're a Norman Rockwell neighborhood. Miss John, if he needs something, he can count on us. I'm not bugging him, but if he needs a hand, I'm going to be there. So I'm just telling you that this, okay, 1 minute. We need to love one another and not concentrate on the money. Look what's happening to our nation. We're falling apart because everybody is at everybody's throat. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's what Jesus said.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Teresa Roth.
Hi, I'm Teresa Roth, and I'm a Hayden homeowner. Thanks for letting me speak, and I did want to thank Barb for his service. You've been a great director, and I'm just kind of shocked, but good luck. And good luck to us too, I hope, without you. I'm a little less emotional than I thought I was anyway, because I guess it's not my homes that are being imposed on right now. But I'm going to say I spoke for the first time before the Hayden City Council 2 years ago about the future land use map. Today, I'm going to talk again about the future land use map. I've brought it up numerous times. A lot of the same problems are exactly the same problems that were there 2 years ago. Very little substantial has changed. The problem, of course, is it provides for much too much multifamily, and the vision it reflects for the future of Hayden is entirely contrary to the desires of existing residents. Right now, 80% of Hayden residences are single-family homes, most owner-occupied. But if Hayden develops according to the future land use map, within 20 to 30 years, only a third of Hayden residents would be single-family homes on full-size lots. Possibly 15 to 25% more would be duplexes or single-family homes on small lots, and up to 45% of all the residences in Hayden would be high-density apartments. That is what the FLUM provides for us. In other words, the FLUM envisions a completely different city than the one that existing residents desire. So what is the explanation for not acting for the last 2 years to reduce the amount of multifamily? There really isn't an explanation. So when some advocates of this plan are confronted with this, their response now seems to be to change the subject and talk about the fact that there are not currently very many or any multifamily developments planned in the short term. To quote one of these defenders, there are 0 building permits that have been issued for mixed use in the last year. 0. Okay? I believe that. The argument is, since multifamily development is having an off year, maybe due to very high interest rates and high building costs, there's no problem and there's no need for Hayden officials to take action. But this is a diversion. Whether Hayden takes 5 years or 50 years to transform into a congested, overbuilt ocean of mixed-use apartments foreseen by the FLUM, it is not a future any of us want. It's the FLUM that's the problem, and the FLUM needs to be fixed, and it's little comfort to anyone who understands how smart growth works over time that the destruction of Hayden is off to a slow start. Those of us who have seen how this type of plan works over time in other cities understand what the future will bring and why FLUM's Hayden's land use map is such a threat. As it turns out, I grew up in Seattle, and Seattle was the laboratory rat for the same program of smart growth and densification that is now being imposed on Hayden. The first comprehensive plan that was imposed on Seattle was adopted in 1995. Let's see what has happened to Seattle since. I have a chart that shows the amount of mixed-use housing in Seattle that was built over the last 25 years. To summarize, it took almost a decade for the whole mixed-use building frenzy to take off. Almost 10 years. In the first 10 years, there was only 8,000 units added, or 860 per year. But ultimately, the smart growth advocates prevailed. During the second decade, from 2006 to 2015, more than 34,000 new mixed units were added, or 3,500 per year. But this was, the party was just getting started. In the following 5 years, the pace has doubled to about 7,000 per year with no let-up. During this time, while over 100,000 high-density apartments were added to the housing stocks, rents nearly tripled. It turns out densifying urban land does not lower prices, it drives them up, especially when unlimited funds are available to subsidize low-income families. And it never ends. They've already added 250,000 more people to Seattle, and they're trying to pack in 2,055 more by getting rid of single-family zoning altogether. This is a bad path to go down. We don't want to have anything to do with smart growth. We've got to redo the FLUM, and we've got to reject the whole smart growth philosophy for Hayden, starting now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Don't believe we have any other requests for public comment this evening. Okay, moving on then. Item 4A, the request to advertise Hayden Meadows Elementary pedestrian route project for bid. Mr. Soderling, would that be you?
That would be me. So this project was originally brought up in like 2019. 2019. And we had looked at the potential of doing this. It has a huge demand. We have a lot of school children walking down that street, so this is quite a great opportunity. Earlier this year, we had the opportunity to apply for a grant for that, and we were actually lucky to get that. Where we're at today is they want this to be constructed immediately, but if we do that work today, it will impact the students being able to walk to school. They won't be able to get down the street, and they have construction at the same time. So we've talked to them about that, and we have to, early next week, we have to produce a mid-project report. And we're at the point of being able to advertise this shortly, and we got the cost estimate together. We wanted to get approved from the council to bid that, which would also allow us to share that with the funding authority that we are at that point, ready to move forward, but we want to ask for the right to construct it come June so that we don't impact the children trying to walk to school. And so it's kind of a support thing to let them know that we did our part. We just want to change one condition.
Questions or comments from council? Mr. Roeder?
Thank you, Mayor. Related to this, because this is a sidewalk that will run east-west on Hayden Avenue to help give more protection for the students going to and from Hayden Meadows Elementary. And what's related to that is my question is just, if anybody knows the answer, my understanding of the housing development that's on the south side of Hayden Meadows Elementary School, there was supposed to be a gate that was to be built to allow access in and out from this housing development so students would not have to go on the sidewalk or on the road. Have they done that yet? It's kind of related to this, but.
Yeah, I can't answer that off the top of my head, Matt. I don't even know that the school would allow us to do that. So, I mean, they may.
It was part of the approving that development, I remember.
But the fence is owned by the school, so that's where I'm getting at. So I don't know where that went, and I would have to look into it. It may be in.
I drove by the other day, it wasn't. I figured maybe in the future, but I just want to bring that up because it does somewhat relate to the student safety walking to and from school, even though that's on the south side. It's related, and
I'm not, I'd have to look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Roeder. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. White?
Yes, have we been presented with a schematic or a drawing of this sidewalk yet? I haven't seen it.
I remember seeing that.
I remember
We saw something.
You saw something?
I thought there was something in the packet.
Yeah, we did, I remember.
Okay.
Seems that when we originally discussed this.
Yes, previous, we have.
Yes, we have, but I thought that, was there not attachment in the packet that showed? Yeah, there's nothing in the current packet?
No.
Okay. I'm pretty sure we have one. So I will circulate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. White?
No, thank you. That's
Okay. Mr. DePriest?
Yeah, it seems like this came before council recently.
Yeah, I think we got the grant in September.
Yeah, and I've remember
August.
seeing some form of depiction of the proposed sidewalk and an area that right away, I guess it was, that would be required and things like that.
It just visually, it's a 5 foot, oh my gosh, it's a 5 or 8. I think it's an 8 foot walk on the south side of the road with a basically a 10 foot buffer strip that's be a swale, just like our typical urban section. And it runs from Maple all the way to Panukin.
Any other questions from
I
council?
have one
Ms.
more
White?
question. Do we need to purchase any right-of-ways to widen for the sidewalk?
Not this time. I believe that we have worked with each of the property owners and they have agreed. We didn't really need any right-of-way other than the school,
Okay.
but we did need right of access for construction. And I believe that has been agreed to by all parties. I don't know if they've all signed off on it yet, but we've had meetings with every property owner that would be affected by this project.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none, I would appreciate a motion regarding the request to advertise the route project for bids.
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Mr. Roden.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion that regarding the Hayden Meadows Elementary pedestrian route project, that we authorize it to go out to bid.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Satterfield.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest.
Yes.
Council President Roder.
Yeah,
Motion passes. On a side note, Mr. Soderling, when this opportunity first came up for bid, you had so many other things going on that I did not think it was possible for you to actually put this grant request together and get it done. I am extremely impressed with your ability to get that done. Good job.
I will tell you that the citizens of Hayden who live along that street made that much easier. They were very supportive. And so the time that we took to try and see if we could make this happen was greatly reduced from the effort that I thought we'd even have to put forward. And it was really, it was a blessing to be able to talk to them and see how supportive they were of this project.
Great. Thanks very much. Moving on to item 5A, new business. Item A is the Prairie Avenue Community Church Annexation Deferred Development Agreement. Is that Donna?
It's me. So if you look at page 2 of your memo, I apologize, didn't have time to put a PowerPoint together today.
All right.
And
I understand you're still feeling some effects of
under the
illness,
weather
so,
from last week. So
do what you can.
previously, we did a similar deferred annexation development agreement with the property 2 doors down from the one that you'll see highlighted in yellow. This is for the church, Prairie Church off of Prairie Avenue. They're putting in 2 new portable classrooms. And because they're in our area of city impact, they again are held to the same standard of development. And so the road that they butt up to on the north, Cranston Avenue, would need to be built with frontage improvements and half width and what have you, but that doesn't make sense right now because they don't have sewer running down Cranston. So the agreement here is to basically recognize the fact that at some point they may annex, and when they annex, then they would be required to build the required frontage improvements that are required today. So it's virtually almost the exact same agreement as for American Universal Storage that you approved previously that was like 2 doors down.
to the west.
Correct. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Mr. DePriest.
Thank you. And if I read, or I know I spoke to you earlier, the church will be making, I guess, payments
Correct.
to cover
Right. So that
costs?
generally you post a performance, some kind of performance surety guaranteeing that you're going to do some work in the future. And so they didn't really want to do it that way. So they're posting that 3% that you would normally do for a performance bond. They're paying that to the city to hold. And then we'll do that for like up to 10 years and then reevaluate in 10 years and see where we're at.
That's to guarantee that the money will be there when it comes time to put the.
And they'll be putting it in.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Roder.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, well, my understanding is they're on sewer or septic system now.
Correct.
And by adding the classrooms, I'm assuming, but if you can answer the question, they would max out, they couldn't really add the classrooms because they're at their full capacity with the septic system that they have.
Permits that were approved at the county were approved with Panhandle Health District's approvals. I can't speak to whether they have maxed out their capacity
Okay,
or
but
not.
they can include these 2 classrooms with their permit application. So they're, okay. Now, and Panhandle Health has a final say on that septic system.
Correct.
Being able to meet the capacity that they want. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Roder. Other questions, comment?
Yes.
Ms. White?
So I'd like to know if you could tell me, please, what the impact would be right away on the neighbors, the surrounding neighbors, and when the improvements would be made to the sewer line.
So there is no sewer in Cranston and there is no city sewer in Prairie Avenue. Howard could attest to that, correct? Right? So right now they're on septic and they would remain on septic because they're in that county. The only time that they'd connect to the city sewer is if they were annexed into the city.
Okay.
We don't serve outside of our boundaries.
Thank you, generally speaking. So there's no immediate, am I answering your question? Fuzzy in the brain still.
There isn't currently a scheduled time to be put sewer in that area because it's not in the city limits.
Okay.
Other questions? Mr. Roder?
Follow up. Thank you, Mayor. This agreement is not, we're not accepting an annexation request by the applicant.
Right.
And we're not binding any future council so they'll have to come in and ask for that. Now, my understanding from reading this is that their intention at some point will be to ask, the applicant will ask to be annexed. So that's not our decision tonight. We're just,
Trying to meet everybody's code tonight.
right, okay. I just want to make sure that I get it all, but I thank you, Don.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, I would appreciate a motion regarding the Prairie Avenue Community Church Annexation Deferred Development Agreement.
So moved. Oh, I thought, okay.
What is your motion?
I would move to approve the Prairie Avenue Community Church Annexation Deferred Development Agreement. Does that cover it? Thank
Do
you.
we have a second? Second. We have a second. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Roder?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 5B, 5-year plan for law enforcement services. Council members, you have this in your binders. To give you a bit of background on this, the current administration for the Kootenai Board of Commissioners is very keen on getting full cost from outside cities for law enforcement services. And the county has asked us to approve a non-binding agreement that essentially makes council aware that we will have increased costs in the future for our law enforcement. I spoke with Commissioner Matari about this, and although this plan likely does not meet his expectations, the issue that we have as a council is binding future councils to fiscal matters. We simply can't do it. So we have presented council, Mr. Boyer and I have presented council with this 5-year plan on law enforcement funding to show the Board of County Commissioners that we understand that we will have to be continually looking at our law enforcement services cost. Mr. Boyer, would you care to add to that?
Yeah, this is very general in nature. It's a plan. It's not part of the contract that we considered, the council approved in the last meeting. It's meant to provide some steps to, as the mayor mentioned, to review and look at, but not bind future councils. So it's fairly general in nature and is non-binding, as the mayor mentioned. So, but Commissioner Matari was very concerned with not having something outlined to look at over the next 5 years. So,
Mr. DePriest.
Thank you. I'm fine with this in the 5-year plan, but I think we need to put right at the very top of it, and maybe I should talk about this in the round table, but it applies very much to this. I've been made aware of some numbers, increasingly what I consider extremely high increases, and the like, which I'm sure are factored into what they're going to charge us as part of their costs. And it's pretty obvious to me that, in my opinion, it's not going to be that long before we are paying for sheriff's service what we could have our own police department for. And I think it is incumbent upon us to, as soon as possible, reconvene or bring together that task force or create a new one, solicit community participation to immediately evaluate the process and feasibility of Hayden forming its own police department, because it's pretty obvious to me we're going to be paying them what it's going to cost us, and with our own, we would have control and the ability to track and know exactly what's going on. So I would ask that we either add that to this, or that separately we take action to immediately start moving forward with that.
Mr. Priest, we have suggested, Mr. Boyd and I have suggested that with this new contract we have with the sheriff, that we do, I don't know whether we reinstate, because I believe if we reinstate the Public Safety Commission or task a new one, but certainly we are advocating the formation or the continuation of a Public Safety Task Force to keep track of where our expenses go for law enforcement.
just to differentiate, I think what was proposed was to create a committee similar to like our planning and zoning and a regular standing committee that would meet regular, as opposed to a task force, which is more temporary in nature.
Yeah. And to follow, if I may.
Yes, sir. Mr. Priest, go ahead.
To me, there's a difference between tracking costs and looking to form a new, and that's really what I think we need to do. We need to seriously look at forming a new, because as a taxpayer, I can see these costs going way beyond I'd rather have the city have control than what I'm seeing going on.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Other questions or comments? Mr. Satterfield.
You know, we did a study a few years ago on having our own police force, and it was cost prohibitive. But as I have been paying attention with the negotiations, the paperwork, everything involved here, I wholeheartedly agree with Councilmember DePriest that we need to get that group, that safety group, back together, a new group, and look at alternatives, because this is totally, and this isn't going to end because every 2 years, county commissioners get a new commissioner, or possibly a new commissioner. And I just think we need to be in charge of our own destiny.
Ms. White.
Thank you. Well, I don't agree. I feel like I believe that our sheriff is doing a great job, and I'm committed to keeping our contract with our sheriff. And we can work out costs, we can work out all the different things that go with that. but I believe that having a constitutional sheriff watching over us is a really good thing. As far as the Public Safety Committee, whatever we had for the levy didn't work. So, because they weren't accountable to anyone, they did not report to us. We got the reports about budget information too late to look at our budget before we went for a levy. So I would rather have the council working together on this and looking into things. We're elected to look into the matters of our city, and I would like to keep it in the council. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roder, comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I know that it's been quoted that the sheriff thinks we should have 26 deputies in Hayden. The sheriff currently has between 50 to 60 deputies for the whole county. So does that mean we need half of their deputies to patrol Hayden? I think that's where this plan is going. It's way, way too much. I came in with the thought that we can't bind future councils, but I'm told this is not binding, it's just a plan. Why do we want to go put forth a plan that is excessive in my mind? We don't need 26 deputies in Hayden. I mean, that's, if we were having a shooting a day or something, maybe, but that's not happening. So last meeting, Ed DePriest, Councilmember DePriest, suggested that we put a plan together to look at having our own police department. And I agree that if we're going to have a plan, that should be the number one thing, is to look at what it costs. And also, and I've stated this previously, that there are some really good grants for cities to start their own police departments. And what I've heard, and I don't have all the numbers, is that there's probably enough money in a grant to fund a police department for 3 years for your equipment and your deputies. But the problem is, after 3 years, what do? You have to have something in place, because you can't just start it and stop it. So I support a plan looking forward to what it will cost to put into police department. I agree with Ed completely on that. I think that's a great idea. Now, the other thing that I don't agree with this at all, is that there's no tracking involved with this. And I brought this up last time, that we have to trust when we do work with other taxing entities, and this, whether we've hired prosecution from the city of Post Falls to do a prosecution, we have to trust, but we also have to verify. I think that's a principle in business or in life. And so there is, as I mentioned before, a way to track just the hours that these deputies will be in Hayden. And it's like why we hire an auditor when we do our auditing for our financials. We have to third party look at it. This third party would just track the hours, because if we're going to plan ahead, that you need data, and have a third party data collection is where I trust that. But we need to verify what we are getting for what we're spending. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I do not support this plan for those reasons, and that's all I have to say.
Mr. Roder, just to be clear, there is nothing in this plan that says anything about the sheriff wanting 26 deputies.
I know, but you were quoted as saying that that's what he wanted. It's in their minutes.
Yes, sir, but this is strictly for a five-year plan for funding. There's nothing in this that talks about numbers of deputies. And I believe that to Mr. DePriest's point, that this does allow the committee that we form to track this law enforcement information. It does allow that committee to take a hard look at other alternatives to having the sheriff provide our law enforcement services. This does that. It's broad, it's general, and it's non-binding, but this does allow that.
I'm just saying for a third party, we could have that for $2,000 and the free equipment. We could get that data moving forward, looking at how many hours does it take? And I think that's very valuable. If you're going to plan ahead, you have to have solid data. And I just want solid data if we're going to plan ahead.
Mr. DePriest.
Thank you. It sounds like, as you just stated here, it's a plan for funding. And that's basically, I'm hearing out of that, it's basically, you better plan how you're going to get the money, because you want more. Okay? And I don't know if I'm just tired or what, or just the normal confused, but I constantly hear about transparency and the people's voice and wanting the people to participate and have a say. I think it is vital that the people are on this committee and that the people look into the situation and the people tell the council and the city what it is that they'd like to see when it comes to something as important and as large a project of forming our own police department.
Other comments or questions? Ms. White?
Yes. First of all, I would like to postpone this, looking at or approving this draft agreement, because it is just a draft and there are some corrections that need to be made to it. We haven't been, as a council, we have not been included in the negotiations with the sheriff or with the commissioners. And I believe that once we've done something like that, had an actual sit down with the sheriff, heard from him, heard from the commissioners what they're expecting, then we'd be able to move forward a little more. The another thing about the sheriffs and tracking or their time, I think in the past I've heard talk about maybe having a sheriff's office somewhere here in Hayden. It wouldn't be their official office, but it would be a place where they could stop, do reports, and still be in town, and it would save them time traveling back and forth to the regular sheriff's office. So that's something else I would like to talk about. So again, I would like this to be discussed within the council. I'm opposed to a committee or a commission in order to address these needs. Thank you.
Mr. Satterfield?
I believe wholeheartedly we need to bring a safety committee back. The council was involved, but we didn't want to have a formal meeting and every time when they got together. So we tried to report back what was going on, but the people of this city voted in via their taxes to have more law enforcement. And I think it's a terrible thing that now we're thinking about shutting the door when we're actually talking about changing or looking at changing what we told them and they voted for. Of course they need to be involved. They don't get involved with enough of the stuff we do. And I think it's the only right thing to do is have them present and get their input. So that's my take on it.
Other comments or questions? Excuse me. I would entertain a motion. Mr. Boyer?
I was just I keep reading through this draft. For the most part, there's no specific goals. Basically, the idea is to, like the first one is begin tracking hours response. And in the contract, it has tracking of what the officers are doing. So basically, this draft agreement is to track, to evaluate, and meet and discuss as whether the language is committee or council. If you decided you wanted to be the council, you could do that, or if you wanted to be a committee, basically meet on an annual basis to review the statistical information and decide what you want to do. So there's no commitment to add a certain number of officers. It's just to let them know that every year we're going to be reviewing in a very general way. So if there's some language changes, we could do that. But that's what this was meant to be, because when we were meeting with them, we could not commit, nor do we have the information to be able to say, we're going to add another 2 officers next time, or this. It would take going back to the public. So it's meant just to commit to them that we will keep this on our radar, think about it as a plan, and review this information every year.
That's well said, and I urge council to take a look at the generalness of this and its purpose, which is really to try to keep this on council's radar and consider approving this, but I see we have several council members that want to say.
Three hands.
Mr. Roder.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I see in year 1, begin tracking hours. So it doesn't sound like the sheriff's department is opposed to tracking hours. What I have a question is, why doesn't he want an independent source to track it? And I'd like an answer to that question. Why does the sheriff's department track it and not have a third party? And we'll pay for it. It's not that much. So I have a question for the sheriff is, why doesn't he want this third party to track the hours?
Thank you. Ms. White?
I move that we postpone this to a further date to when we can meet with the sheriff and the commissioners and get more of an idea of what they're expecting.
I believe Mr. DePriest had a comment first, and then we'll get right to that motion.
I had a motion also.
Ms. White, your motion is to
Delay this.
delay this. Do we have a second? Okay, the motion dies for lack of a second. Mr. DePriest, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I would like the motion that we go ahead and approve this draft, and as part of that, to immediately form a citizen committee to research feasibility of forming a Hayden Police Department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have further comments or questions from council? Mr. Roder?
Thank you. I would support that only if we have third-party tracking and it's not the sheriff's department doing it. And then I would say yes, but other than a third-party tracking, I would vote no.
Ms. White?
I would like to amend that motion to postpone setting up the safety committee right now because the rules, requirements, the job descriptions for this committee have not been established. So I would
We have a
amend the
motion on the floor to amend the original. Do we have a second?
To the amendment?
Yes, a second to the request to amend the original motion. Motion fails for lack of a second. So we are back to our original motion from Mr. DePriest.
Discussion.
Sorry, do you have?
Discussion on Matt's comment, I guess?
Okay, yes, we're still in discussion phase before we do a vote, sure.
I am not opposed to adding Matt's amendment to my motion, I guess. But the question I have is, how do we do that and how would it affect? Has the contract been signed yet?
The city has approved it and signed it. They have not yet.
And
I mean, with what you were proposing, I don't think that it would affect the contract. I would say to the motion that Councilmember White made, we will have to come back with the rules and information to set up a committee, and I kind of took what your motion was to do that.
To start the process.
Start the process. So I think that fulfills.
And that would be part of the process.
Yeah.
I agree, Ms. White, we first need to decide to do a committee and then we can come up with the composure of the committee.
But it sounds to me like in the motion, setting up the committee is in the motion. I would,
Okay, I'll amend it. Hang on.
You
Would
have
you
a
care to
motion
amend
and
your?
a second on the floor already.
We
So
have
are
a
you going to
motion.
make you're going to withdraw your motion?
And amend it?
And no, are you going to withdraw your motion, withdraw the second and restate it?
Sure, I will withdraw my motion. That means whoever second has to withdraw?
No, they have a choice.
Okay. I will withdraw my motion in order to restate it.
Does whoever seconded wish to withdraw their second?
I'll withdraw my second of the motion.
Now?
Mr. DePriest.
Okay, let's try this. I would motion to approve this draft plan and to include initiation of the process of forming a citizens committee to research the feasibility of forming a Hayden Police Department and to what's the terminology, and to research implementing a form of tracking as council member Roeder requests.
I'll second it. We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Ms. White?
The second motion is worse, and I will be voting no on this. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
I'm not opposed to working with the sheriff and working with a plan, but I'm opposed to the amendments to this motion, so I will be voting no. Thank you.
Council President Roeder,
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is the 5C, the Exterior Information Board for City Hall. Ms. White, I believe you have
Okay,
the floor for that.
thank you. So, yeah, I have some pictures to put up for this. Let's see. Abby, is it this one here? This P?
One at the very end.
Very end, that one, okay. So right now I'm asking for a bulletin board to be placed outside of the city hall here in this area. Let's see, how do I move this? I'm not familiar with this. How do I move this up? I like to just,
If there's not a scroll on the mouse, then over on the right-hand side of the screen, there's that gray bar. You can move that up and
okay,
down.
thank you. All right. So outside we have this area that has that empty spot, and I'm proposing a bulletin board to be added there for posting of agendas. And my reason being is it's come to my attention that this bulletin board that we've been using for all these years, it's inside the building and behind closed doors. And there's in Idaho Code, Title 74, Chapter 2, in Open Meetings Law, it states, "The notice requirement for meetings and agendas shall be satisfied by posting such notices and agendas in a prominent place at the principal office of the public agency, or if no such office exists, at the building where the meeting is to be held. The notice for meetings and agendas shall also be posted electronically if the entity maintains an online presence through a website or a social media platform." And we do have a social media platform, we do have online postings, but we don't have anything that's outside. This one, behind closed doors, like, for example, our city council meetings are posted Friday afternoon, so, and then the doors are locked. So if anyone wanted to come see, or this just fulfills a letter of the law here. We post agendas for the Hayden meetings, for the sewer board meetings, joint meetings, and for the urban renewal meetings. And it's just a matter of compliance, putting things in a prominent place. So personally, I came to the city hall a couple weeks ago to pick up my, my packet for the weekend or for the next meeting. And when I was walking by the board, it was a Saturday morning, I noticed there was an urban renewal meeting, a special meeting posted on there. And I had no alert, no way of knowing that that meeting was going to happen. So this board did help me. So it's just a small change to put a bulletin board out there. Let me show you just it would look something like that. There's really nice bulletin boards that fit the color scheme and everything. So that's my proposal. Any questions?
Discussion from council? Mr. Roder?
Yeah, Sandy, thanks for your efforts here. In that Idaho code 74-204, what's the definition of a prominent place?
Let's ask Fonda.
A prominent place has been defined as being allowed indoors. It's not required to be outdoors, so a prominent place can be indoors where the general public has access to it.
So that's a critical part of this.
You are not out of compliance by posting inside City Hall.
So we're in compliance, and the next question I have is, how many complaints have we had that it's not outside? Anybody know?
No.
I've never received it.
Not aware of it.
Thank you.
Mr. DePriest?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, couple things here. I think it's our responsibility, and we continually talk about it, to be as fiscally conservative and frugal as possible. To not spend any more money, a dime more, shall we say, than is necessary. As Councilmember Roder just talked about, why does that be outside? These side windows right there, the front window, there's plenty of windows behind glass, just as a bulletin board would be. And I know there's, I don't know, hundreds, if not thousands of people come down during off hours to see the agenda because they might not have access to the computer where they could see the whole packet on their computer. But I can see where without spending a dime, we could take the agenda up on one of these side windows so that people could walk up to it just as they could that bulletin board and see the agenda without spending a penny.
Mr. Satterfield?
I don't object at all to having the public being able to see our future meetings and anything that's on the agenda is urban renewal, whatever it is. But I think it could be located in a better area that would serve our purpose without spending the money as well.
Other comments? Ms. White? Comments or questions?
Any other questions?
I did take a look at, after I saw that we may not be in compliance with 74-204, I found that the cities of Sandpoint, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Athol, and Dalton Gardens all have their bulletin boards posted inside where, after hours, where you lock the doors. Rathdrum has it posted outside. Fernand Village and Hauser do not even have bulletin boards on the outside. They evidently have some other way of getting around it, but they don't even have bulletin boards. They do have virtual bulletin boards on the internet. Comments or any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion at this point regarding the exterior information board for City Hall. Ms. White?
Yes, I'd like to move that we approve the placement of an exterior information board at City Hall in order to be in compliance with Idaho Code 74-204. Thank you.
Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Do we have another motion regarding the exterior information board for City Hall?
I would move that we place the bulletin board in an area that can be seen from the outside at little or no cost, which I think is possible.
Would you suggest then turning it around to face the window?
You know, I don't know. I think staff and Brett, he's still going to be here for a little bit. And,
Give you something to do.
let's put it on him, so if nobody likes it, we can blame him.
That works.
But I think let staff figure out a way of doing it.
I would mention, I believe there's a film on the windows, and so we usually don't tape anything to the glass. So it'd probably have to be something that would be separate from, I mean, we could think of something.
I think he's talking about repositioning the bulletin board so it's
Yes.
visible through the window.
I'm just, maybe we could look at it, come back and give you a suggestion or a thought at the next meeting.
Okay.
Might be somebody else. but-
Jeez.
Mr. Rover,
As a glass expert, which I am,
True.
if you look at the glass, it's pretty dark. Unless you had it lit, or if that was right on the glass, I don't know that you could see anything. So I don't know what we're accomplishing with that, because it, like you say, that's during the day, and then at night, it's gonna be backlit. So you're gonna have lights on it if if you're gonna make it effective. And, it gets dark here pretty early in winter solstice, so, anyway, I just want to make that point.
council, what I'm gathering from council is that there is no support for placing the board outside, but that council would like city staff to examine this and perhaps at next council meeting, come back with a report to improve the visibility of the board from the inside. Is that?
Thank you.
What I'm,
Well, a thought came to me, but it's not, it's a question as to feasibility of things, and I know we have that reader board out there. Would it be possible to, and it may take a couple of pages through, to place the agenda, on that reader board? As far as, the lights up, says it, whatever agenda date, and then has a list, and then if it continues on, the next page has, you know what I'm saying?
that may not be,
It scrolls through, whatever you want to call it.
given the amount of time that somebody drives by, that may not be practical.
Well, somebody walks up to it, reads it, like, as if they were walking to the front door of that there.
Crashes in front of city.
Mr. Roder.
Thank you, Mayor. We're in compliance.
Just an idea.
So I don't see the need to have our staff be spending time on this. And so I'm opposed to spending more time and money on something that we're in compliance on. So that's where I come from.
Do I need I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Motion is withdrawn. This is tabled. We're into reports.
Wasn't tabled, you had a failed motion.
We had a failed motion.
Right. It wasn't a motion to table that was approved. You had a failed motion for approval.
What would be the next step?
Didn't give any, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to item number 6A, the city administrator report.
Wanted to mention, next Monday, P&Z is having a workshop concerning the comp plan and future land use map. I assume we'll be part of that discussion. So just be aware they have, taken the comments and the thoughts from the council, and they are working on that. I think after that, the next step would be a joint meeting with planning and zoning and the council. Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, after a period of time.
You will be gone. Don't you worry about it.
All right. I want to let you know the Hanson property, the contract was signed, and we have, I think we have a line on an appraiser. The mayor's helped with that as well, probably the one that did the previous appraisal. So we'll be working on that, and hopefully here in the next couple meetings, we'll be able to come back with an appraised value of the 10 acres and let you know. But that, I just want you to know that that was signed.
Right, yeah, what time is that P and Z workshop on Monday?
This is the workshop at 5, before,
No, it's at the end of the meeting.
at the end of the meeting. So
Is that
It's at
meeting
the end of the
on
meeting.
Monday or Tuesday?
Monday.
Monday.
I thought P and Z was having a Tuesday meeting. Okay, I'm confusing the two. Okay, it's Monday. No problem.
Monday.
So it's Monday at the end of their meeting on Monday?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As far as, we do have the city administrator position posted, and I thought I'd at least just give you a report that there are 20 applicants that we've received so far. Sean is going to be going through those, the mayor as well, and they're working on a process. We also have an individual in the community that can help assess as a former city administrator that is retired, that has volunteered to provide some assistance as well.
What's his name?
Dave Childs. So that's moving on.
Fred, before you finish there, just so council is aware, after an initial vetting of the applicants, our plan is to have the council involved, as in listening to the interviews that we take for the final group of folks. So we want council to be involved in that.
Well, good clarification. Just mentioned too, out further November 11th, again, the city of Hayden always does a Memorial Day and Veterans Day, very well, and I'd like to recognize our veterans at that time. So that'll be next month, November 11th, at 11 a.m. And that'll be here at our facilities out here. Wanted to mention just so you have, there are two major areas that I'm working on for the person that's coming on, just so you're aware, particularly on the financial side of things. I'll be working with Natasha, who's doing an amazing job with the amount of time that she's been here. She's learning a lot, and anyways, put together on the major projects that we have going forward, the dollars and where they should be coming from those projects. Again, they'll have to come to the council for approval, but through the years, we've planned and positioned our money to do certain projects, and I will have that outlined for her and for the next person, as well as the projects and the priorities that we've been working on. I'll have sheets with that information and steps that need to be taken so that they can go through and work on that, because there are some major projects that are coming up that we need to work on. Just so you're aware of that. And then also the mayor, I have one more airport board meeting, but that's one that the mayor and council will need to work on, finding somebody to rep there. And I think in the meantime, the administrative side, the mayor will be covering that till we probably get to the new year, is my understanding. So just wanted to give you a kind of a roadmap on those items. And I did want to say this will be my last council meeting here, and wanted to thank the mayor and council and those all that has served for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Hayden. It's been amazing. I've learned a lot being here for the last 7.5 years. I mean, there's been tough times and good times, and always, the good projects and the things we get done. That's what really gets me excited about being in this profession. So anyway, sorry. And I also want to mention the team, the great team, all of you and the great team that we have here. Amazing people work here. So treat them well, trust them, because they're the ones that are, getting the work done to move the city forward. And Hayden is a great place to live and be. It's an amazing place. And there's also great potential to make it even better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, well done. Oh.
Roundtable, Mr. DePriest.
Yeah, I guess first a question here regarding the city admin interviews and the comment about the council. Will we be there just to observe or participate and ask questions? What will the council be?
We will have by law, we will have a defined set of questions that we will ask each candidate. Keeps us legal. We want counsel there so the council can hear the answers to those questions and assist me in making a decision on who to select for your approval.
But we will not be participating actively during the interviews, just listening, but not saying, can I ask you about this?
Correct.
Okay.
Because we can't ask that of every applicant.
Okay, now, you can see the redness and the watering of people's eyes and things like that. Regarding Brett, you know, everybody said it, and everybody knows it, that you've done an outstanding job. You've been extremely helpful to me, very patient, very taking time to detail and give reasons. You're right down the middle of the road, whether you might agree or not agree with something, with someone's position or not. You tell it like it is in the best interest of the city. But something that's more important to me is you're a very good man. Character, moral, values, things like that are far more important than what you've done in your position of the city. And I just want to thank you for the brief time that I've known you and the help that you've given me.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Other comments on roundtable?
If not, someone else, if you want to go before I go.
No, go ahead.
All right. This is to Brett. I mean, it's to our staff as a team, and I know that we've had a captain that's been steering the ship and keeping it going in a direction that keeps the staff doing their job. And I call it tossing balls around and trying to keep it all running. And I told him I could never do that. Brett and I started about the same time. He was started as the city administrator when I was elected. And so I was learning at the same time. And I want to echo what Ed had gone through. And that is, it is a learning curve. People that are on the outside looking in that may not agree with what the city does, it's a whole different world when you're inside. And, you know, he helped me understand that. And also to keep, I guess a good way to describe Brett is he's a peacemaker. And to find a peacemaker in that position is so critical because he's dealing with the public, he's dealing with our applicants and the staff and that. And I just appreciate very much that I was able to work with a man like Brett, and he'll be missed. So thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Brett, words fall short to tell you how much we appreciate and respect you. You've, I enjoy and respect you more than I could ever tell you. Thank you very much for everything you've done. Council, before we leave tonight, and I apologize for even bringing this up after saying our goodbyes to Mr. Boyer. I would, after my discussions with the sheriff and with Commissioner Matari this week, I think it's important that everyone on council and all of our public understand that the costs of law enforcement have risen dramatically. Equipment is more expensive. It costs more to hire deputies, and fortunately now, the county is working towards a livable wage for the deputies that we all depend for our lives on. But that all comes at a cost. And for those of us that use the county services, that cost is going to go up. Regardless of how we look at this, those costs are going to escalate, even if our city has its own police force. And I don't disagree that that's something we could look at. But it's important that all of council understands law enforcement is an expensive proposition, and it is going to get more expensive for the city of Hayden. Please understand that. Do we have other items on the round table? Hearing none, motion to adjourn? So moved. We stand adjourned.